All right, I'm at the sewing machine and I'm gonna make sure that my threads are pulled back. And then I will pull my fabric on. I have the pocket pinned on. You can't see all of it, but this is the bottom corner. And you can see where the facing is right here. So this is the corner, and then it goes over, and then there's another corner that comes up, and then there's the facing again. So there's like the full trapezoid right there. And I'm about ready to sew. I just need to figure out where I'm going to be on my presser foot so that I have a nice clean line, because these lines are going to be very visible on the front of your pocket, or the front of your hoodie and the front of your pocket. And I also am going to start sewing just before the edge of the pocket. So I'm going to start off the pocket, sew on, backstitch off the pocket, and then continue sewing. That way it's kind of extra reinforcement right there, and it'll be really strong. I'll use my hand wheel to see where my needle falls down, and you guys can't see in the video, but I'm just going to make sure, I'm going to look underneath and make sure that's going just off the pocket, but not quite, like just one stitch off the pocket. So if I took one stitch, I'd be onto the pocket. I also need to check and see where I'm going to be sewing on my presser foot. And everything is folded over under a 1/4 inch. So like down here, this is folded under a 1/4 inch. So I want to sew less than a 1/4 inch so that I make sure to catch everything. And if there's any place that I didn't fold under a 1/4 inch, it's not going to come undone. So I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch, which can be really tricky. So you have to be really careful as you sew. 1/8 of an inch is where you line it up with this inside part of your presser foot, the inside toe. So that's 1/8 of an inch away from my needle. A 1/4 inch would be this edge. If you're sewing 1/8 of an inch and it feels like really hard to stay on the line, you can move over a little bit. Just be consistent that you're doing the same distance. It can be a little bit over from 1/8 of an inch if you need, but just be consistent. I'm going to do the 1/8 of an inch and we'll see how that goes. So I'll sew down 1, 2, 3 stitches, and then I'm going to back stitch 1, 2, 3 stitches. Then I'll sew forward again. Really important to back stitch here, otherwise your pocket's going to fall off. I'll take the pins out before I sew them. I'm going to go down, keeping everything lined up with the inside toe. Pull this pin out as I go. And I'm just going to use this guy to tuck anything under right here that might be poking through, because I don't want to see any of that ugly stuff. This is the front of my hoodie. And I'm going to sew down the pocket. It might get a little bit thick, so you might need to push it a little right at the corner. And as I'm approaching the edge, I want to pivot so that I have a nice 1/8 of an inch pivot, which is going to be harder than the 1/4. The 1/4 has a nice line right here that you can know to line up with this bar, but I have to go past that for the 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to test. I'm going to put my hand wheel down and lift it up and see. That looks like about 1/8 of an inch to me. If you need to go further, then you can just turn your hand wheel one more time till it's right. If you need to go backwards, then you can do the back stitch, or you can stop and start again a little bit further up, back stitch, and try again when you get here. But since mine looks pretty good, I'm going to flip it. And I will lower my presser foot. You can see that I'm pretty much lined up with my toe right there. And here I have a nice straight 1/8 of an inch line. I want to continue that as I go. If anything comes, like this was untucked earlier, if it comes untucked like that, just tuck it in a little bit or pin it if you need to, so that you have a nice straight line across the bottom of your pocket. So sew all the way to my corner. I'm going to make sure everything's tucked under. I don't want to have anything poking out from my corner, because you'll obviously see that. So I'm going to tuck it under. And if you need, you can put a pin in to keep it in place, but I think mine will stay. I need to help guide it a little bit as you get to the corner, because it is pretty thick. And then I'll keep an eye on it. I'm going to put my my needle down with my hand wheel. Once it's down, I'm going to check and see. That looks like about 1/8 of an inch to me. So you're going to have to go a little bit past where you do for a 1/4 of an inch. But you don't want to go off the edge. You want it to be a nice 1/8 of an inch pivot. And then I'll put my presser foot down again and continue sewing, lining everything up with the inside toe. Pull this guy out. And you can see these threads and things are poking through, so I might just kind of poke them underneath and put a pin there so that I know that you won't see them on the front of my hoodie. And I'll keep sewing in line with my edge. Remove the pin before I sew over it. And keep sewing up. And just so I have one stitch off my pocket, and then I'll back stitch 1, 2, 3, and then go forward. And now I can lift up my presser foot and trim my threads. So I now have my pocket sewn on. I've sewed it at the top and then here on the side seams and the bottom, pivoting at the corners. And it's pretty much done. I just need to do some reinforcement stitches in these corners to keep it from falling apart or getting like snagged and ripping a hole when someone grabs my pocket.